hello everybody. It is day 7 of my daily vlog challenge in July, and I am a little bit spent. I go to church on Sunday mornings when I'm well enough to, and but I find the whole experience incredibly exhausting. I survived is all I can say, and I just don't have anything left in me, to be fair. So what on earth is going to come out of this video today, I have no idea. But I did come up with a little bit of an idea. And so what I sometimes do on a Sunday is I'll watch some YouTube videos myself, just as a bit of a break from just life, whatever. So but I'll try and do it and watch things that are actually beneficial, but that are not too taxing. And one of the things that I've been watching fairly recently is the map reading company. I think that's what they're called. If they're not called that, then I'll put all the links in the description anyways. Because I wouldn't say I'm navigationally inept. I think I'm navigationally lazy. I think I know how to read a map, but what tends to happen is I'll be in the situation where I need to use a map and I'll broadly follow it. And the difficulty with map reading is it is quite technical. You do have to do things in a certain order. There isn't so much of, vaguely in this direction, or there are just situations where if you do that, you're going to end up in a pickle. And I can't tell you how to read a map, certainly not while my mind is like this. If you're coming here to want to know how to read a map, I would highly recommend going to something like this YouTube channel, going on a navigational course, or just anything but listen to me, to be quite honest. But what I definitely can do today is share with you some of the mistakes that I've made over the years. Not masses, I'm not going to go on forever about it because I don't think I've got the energy to, but I just have funny memories. I mean, let's just say with my navigational skills, I did my Duke of Edinburgh, obviously when I was much younger, as a teenager. And when they gave me the map, we started off in Ticehurst at a church. We were supposed to be going in a 5-mile straight line, and I managed to take everybody on a 5-mile circle, and we ended up pretty much where we started. I think it was about 100 metres down the road, and we were supposed to end up at a church, and I pointed at the church that we'd left at and went, that's where we were supposed to go to. So in other words, I basically got us back to where we started, and I didn't even think, hang on a minute, that church looks familiar. Yeah, I don't know whether anybody should ever trust me with a map, but I think I did learn from that you just can't kind of find your way around. You just have to do it properly. You have to pay attention, and that's not something that I think I've ever been really keen on. But the reality is, I think doing map reading properly it requires that. Anyway, I think I've gone on enough about that, and I think that sets the scene pretty well on how navigationally inept I am. And so I would say the kind of first time, once I had about a decade and a half, whatever, off, where I just didn't do very much outdoorsy stuff at all, for various reasons I won't go into. But around 2018-19, I really started to perk up a bit and get my old mojo back, and I went to the Brecon Beacons, armed with my knowledge of my youth, with my navigational skills, and off I went to the Story Arms, and I headed up to Pennyfan, and I thought, yeah, that's a nice easy trip. And as soon as I got off the bus, I knew I needed to head I'm going to say south, but I needed to head to the, there's a main path that goes up. I'll hopefully bring up a map now and show you where I should have been going. But what happened was I got off the bus. I moved about 2 meters down the road. I thought, oh, that's down the road. That must be where I'm heading. And then I saw a sign that said Penny Fan, and I thought, well, that's the way up then. And just off I went. And I didn't realise until much later that and I had my map in my hand. I was very convinced I knew exactly where I was, even though I clearly wasn't where I thought I was. And I just kind of carried on, and you go up and up and up. But I wasn't on the main path that I was expecting, and I noticed this. I couldn't work out while I was walking up this path, while I was looking south, and I was seeing all these people walking up another path, and on the map, well, there isn't a path further south. This is the path. And for some reason that didn't twig in my mind that there was a problem. And yeah, but anyway, so I did end up at Penny Fan, but no, I didn't. I ended up, it was such bad weather that I didn't make it to the top that time, because I made the rule of I'm going to go up for an amount of time and then I'm going to come back down again. So I don't think I was particularly in any danger, really. If you're going to mess it up navigationally, I think that is the place to do it. But essentially, I kind of got down to the bottom and realised I don't think I did what I thought I did on that trip. And because the Bracken Beacons, as much as, yeah, in that area you're not going to get that, as long as if you can tell Mountain Rescue exactly what you've done, anybody would have gone, you're not where you think you are, love. I'm pretty sure of that. I was observant enough to know what I'd done, but yeah, it still wasn't ideal. So I decided, I just find using a compass quite overwhelming. So what I did was I gave my compass a name, and here he is. So here is Bob. It's got an awful lot of features on here, if I'm honest, that I would never use, haven't used. But when I got back from that trip, I decided me and Bob need to get acquainted a lot better, because I want to go and do things, and it's not safe for me to go places that I want to go to and have no idea where I am. Technology only gets you so far. So me and Bob went for a walk at, what was it? It was about 2 in the morning, because I was so embarrassed about having to take a compass with me walking around, because I went into an urban area. I literally took my compass outside my flat where I was living at the time. I was like, right, I am going to take bearings and I'm going to learn how to use this in an area that's fairly, safe in many regards. And so I took Bob out. Me and Bob went for an adventure at 2 in the morning around my neighbourhood. And the thing was, what was absolutely hilarious, as there was a whole load of drunk people in one of the roads, and they had no idea where they were, and neither did I. And there was me and my compass, and there was this moment of, they don't know where they are, and I don't know where I am. And I sorted it out, it was fine, but it's memorable. I have a lot of good memories of that. But yeah, that's what I did. I think when I realised that I really cannot read a map enough, and just having a bit of an opportunity to take a step back and go, actually, what is my issue here? Because with map reading, it is about following a set of procedures, and if you do things in an order, you really won't go wrong. But I find following instructions hard, and so that in itself is difficult. And I think that's why a lot of people don't do it, because it requires you to do certain things in a certain order, and it probably just overwhelms people a bit, or people don't feel confident. I think there's all sorts of reasons why people don't like using maps and stuff, but I can relate. If you're somebody who goes, I should know how to read a map, but I don't really, I think a lot of us have been there, and so you do have my sympathies very much. So I would just say practice. I think that was really helpful. But when I took a step back, I realised that actually I learned how to take a bearing fine. But one of the difficulties I found was distance and contours. So I think looking at a map and visualising what it looks like, and I think that takes quite a lot of time and practice and more experience, actually, more than anything. You won't actually be able to practice map reading skills by sitting on your sofa, on the internet, listening to me waffle on. There is an element of I lack sometimes observant skills, so I think sometimes I'm not very good at assessing the situation around me. I will look at the map and think, yeah, this is great, and then make my surroundings fit what's on my map, which isn't helpful. And that's something I became aware of, and that's something that I've really worked on, and something that I will continue to work on, because I don't think I've got there with that. But I am definitely getting better at that. And contours and distance, I think one of the things that I think is really helpful is once you've got your bearings sorted and you know how to do all of that, I think distance is one of the things that's quite tricky to gauge. And because I'm short, and because my energy levels vary and I pace differently, there's certain techniques that just don't work as well for me. And it's just learning what those are and seeing how you can make this fit, because some of the techniques are really quite important, especially in snowy mountainous areas. And I have navigated myself through plenty of situations. So I would go up to the Cairngorms in my 20s, and I don't know how I survived. I clearly did know what I was doing. I think there's just been a time between my 20s and now. I'm 40, and where something's just disappeared from my head, because I did do fine. I mean, I'd dig myself a snow hole in the Cairngorms and I'd be having the time of my life. People would have these experiences and say, oh, it's an emergency situation. I was like, oh no, this is a good day out. You know, I thrived in all sorts of environments where you do need good navigation, and I clearly had that. But something definitely has gone amiss. And it might be the epilepsy, since I've been diagnosed with that. The epilepsy I have impacts the frontal part of my brain. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's not helped the situation. But that doesn't solve, regardless of why, what, when, however, whatever. At the end of the day, I need to get around safely. And so what I'm finding really helpful at the minute is I'm watching videos from the map reading company, and they do miniature little chunks, and I think that's a really good way of doing it, because I think me going on a navigational course would be really quite hard going. And so what I tend to do at the minute is just pick adventures that are suitable for where I'm at, and I try and anticipate what skills I might need for that particular adventure. So, there's a big difference between navigating around, I don't know, lakes and loads of featured places where you can, you've got things that you can place yourself to, whereas if you were going on, I don't know, a massive forest and trying to navigate through miles and miles of forest land, that's quite different, and the conditions you're in and visibility and all that stuff. So I think I just will make sure that I know where my skills are and where I'm at. I do think there is an element though of lack of confidence in me. I think I do really know what I'm doing. Now I definitely didn't, before the pandemic when I was heading off to the Brecon Beacons. But you do just have to get out sometimes and practice. I think it's just finding those places where it's safe for it all to go a bit wrong. And I think if you've got your head screwed on, I think that definitely helps. If you can get yourself out of tricky situations, I don't know if that makes any kind of sense to people, but certainly when I was younger, I had a lot more mental ability to just adapt. That's the word I'm looking for. And to just take stock of a situation and assess it properly. Whereas I feel like that part of my brain isn't just firing as much as it used to. I wouldn't trust that part of me like I used to. And so it just means that I am really needing to learn things properly. I can't just follow my nose places, and I'll get myself into trouble that way. And the only top tip I'll leave with you, because I think I've waffled enough on this, is I tend to write down the steps of following a bearing and any top tips, things that will jog my memory of how to take a grid reference, because one of the things that I have learned is when it all goes a bit wrong, and you say so when I broke my ankle, one of the things that was hard was I knew how to take a grid reference. I knew exactly where I was, but I was in so much pain that my brain just wasn't functioning, and I was surprised by the whole experience of falling into a stream. I fell 50 meters down, and that was like a tortoise in a stream. And in those dynamic situations, I think to expect my brain to behave properly is a bit overambitious. And with my brain the way it is anyway, I mean, expectations. And so what I do is I write a list, and then top tips of things that I think, oh yeah, these are going to be the things that will jog my memory, so that if my brain is a little bit whatever, I've got something that I know if I follow this, all will be okay. And I found that has definitely helped, because you can go mind blank, and that's not helpful to anybody. So I think being just self-aware, I think my top tip to anybody who goes out, has no idea really how to read a map, takes a map and goes, I know what I'm doing, is just to be, you got to face that and be aware of that. And I would say I would probably say most mountain rescue incidents are to do with people getting lost. And it's not getting lost that will cause you to be in a pickle, really. Because what tends to happen, I think, is people get lost, and then they think that they're somewhere different, and they don't think, oh, that's a gully, maybe I shouldn't go down there because it's quite steep. I think it's the lack of observational skills that makes you realise, hang on a minute, I'm about to walk off a cliff. Do you know what I mean? There is that element of, in the moment that I realise I'm lost, or I don't know where I am, if I'm dry, if I've got shelter, there's that time, you've got time to work out where you are. The issue is if you think you're somewhere that you're not, and then you don't have the ability to use common sense to go, maybe I shouldn't go, this doesn't make sense or whatever. And I know that for me, those observational skills is on top form. So I think that's what I'm waffling on about. It's a tricky one, because it's such a dull subject, really, in many ways. I don't find map reading exciting in any way, shape or form at the minute. But I think I will. I think there'll be something that clicks in me somewhere. I'll work at it. I'll keep chipping at it, and then something will twig in my brain, and all of a sudden I'll be fine, and I'll be, heading over all sorts of places, and I will plug at that. I will. I'm determined that I want to go places and do things, and it's spending the time to put into things like this. So I fell asleep while I was talking to you. So if I fell asleep talking this, goodness knows if I'm going to send you all to sleep then. But anyways, so I can't remember what I was saying last, but I think what I'm going to do is leave you with my top tip on finding your first compass. So I had this one, perfectly fine, did the job, but it's got an awful lot of features on it that I don't use. It's quite bulky. I probably would need to go on some kind of course to understand what half of these features do. So goodbye, Bob. And hello, Sarah. So this is, yeah, I do still name it because I find anything that overwhelms me a little bit, I find if I give it a name, it helps. This is just the basic. I think it's called the Ranger. I'll put the name of it and a link to this compass. This is exactly what I've needed. I've not needed anything else for the type of terrain and the basic navigation that I need. This is all that I've really needed to get myself out of situations where perhaps I've been a top penny fan and I can literally see where I am here to you are there. Excuse me, there are days that I've been up there where you get to the top and I normally know that if I walk off in the top, what is it called? Not the trig point. Well, you know, the bit at the bit at the top that everybody touches. I don't think there is a trig point there. There's anyways, I always make sure it's behind me and I'm walking off that way and I know I'll be fine. But it was such bad visibility that I turned around and it was not there. So I used a compass to get me off the top. And I think that's mainly what I would use one for, because of the type of trips I do. I just find sometimes I need to work out which direction I need to be heading in, and you only need something like this. You don't need all the fancy features that say other compasses would have. However, when I go to Scotland in the winter, I am going to get the expedition version of this that has a lot of features, and between now and then I expect I'll be a lot more confident in using the features of that compass. So yeah, that's my joys, and I am going to just rest and watch more map reading videos and try not to fall asleep. But on that lovely note, I trust you all well. I hope in any way if that was helpful, if any of that has been helpful, I'll be very amazed. If any of this has come out with me talking sense. And this is the reality of making vlogs when you're a little bit haggard. But anyways, I will speak to you tomorrow. Here's hoping a little bit more refreshed and more navigationally skilled.